somebody wants to get into that, to the real, into realty, into mortgage, what do they need to do?
Work. Be disciplined. People think coming into a mortgage industry or coming into real estate, they're gonna come here and make easy money. They're not. Listen, I think there's like 60,000 realtors that are licensed in Florida. Only half did one deal last year. And out of those, about, I wanna say is another half did more than 2 deals. So you have to work.
Hey guys, welcome to the Troy Gramling podcast. It is so good to have you join us today. Our heart, as always, is to connect and partner with you to reach your potential. And so all the resources really that we create, whether it's on this channel or on the website, the book, if you haven't got a copy of that, encourage you to do that. But today, I got Carson Lucas with me today.
Welcome. Yes, excited to be here.
Yes, he's not quite as consistent as he once was. Because
here we go.
I was going to say nice thing.
Gotcha.
Because you have a child.
I do.
And your wife has had a difficult time, not during the pregnancy, but after the pregnancy.
Yeah. She's good. She's good, but she's had some health stuff post-pregnancy. But doing much better now. Little baby boy who slept really good last night. Really.
I thought you looked pretty energetic.
Yeah, no, he only woke up one time.
Wow, so you had a big, of course you lead the student ministry, so you had a big, Easter, I guess.
Yeah, it was a great night.
Student ministry, and then you got a good night's sleep, so.
I know, and the night before that, Jess took all the shifts.
Wow.
I never had to wake up.
So
I know, I'm blessed.
I thought you looked pretty energetic.
I did, yeah. No, I'm feeling good today.
All right. Well, we have a guest as well that we're honored to have with us, and he has a unique name. We'll find out a little bit more about it. Welcome, Yoster, to the channel today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you. So tell us about your name, Yoster. I've never heard that name. Is that a given name? Is that a nickname? It's
a given name. So my grandmother named me. I've asked her this question, I want to say a little over 20 times. The same response every single time. She made it up.
Well, it's a cool name. I think anything, especially nowadays, used to everybody was Sam and Fred and John, and now everybody's different names.
Unique, yeah.
Yes. So, you gave your son a regular name, like a Bible name.
Yeah, Silas, yeah.
His cousins, though, are Luna and a lion. So,
Dove.
They're all, I've got tattoos for all the grandkids, for the kids and the grandkids. And but the grandkids are all, like, I got a dove, and then I've got a lion on my back. Actually, I got a dove not too long ago without realizing that I already had a dove. So I wouldn't have had to get the second dove, but I did. And then for Luna, I've got an astronaut with Luna above the astronaut face kind of thing. But Silas, I don't have yet because I can't figure out what to get.
You know what I was thinking? You could do some chains or like some prison doors or something like that.
That's negative.
I guess that's true, but positive. Right. Praying in prison.
Yeah, no, that's what comes to my mind. Paul and Silas in prison and them praying and singing, but maybe an open door, an open prison
there we go.
door.
I like that.
But something that had to be coming.
Yeah, he's gonna go through. So you got a lion, you got a bird, beautiful bird. What'd you get for me? Prison.
See, that's not.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get a fancy S or something.
You could. You're running out of space.
You know what? I can see what his name means I'm not sure what that name means in the Bible.
I don't know either.
So
let me know. Let me know when you find out. But yeah.
Because that might be.
Yeah, it might give you something.
That might be the key. But anyways, we get sidetracked. Yoster, so that's your name. Tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of who you are and what you do.
So a little about me. My name is Yoster. So I am a partner at Lumos Mortgage Group. So we are a broker company. Right? So we're the ones, we work with about 34 different banks. We're the ones that get people pre-approved, get you through the whole underwriting process in order to make home ownership come true.
Wow. And now we're here in South Florida. Is that a South Florida company or bigger than that? Or how does that work?
All of Florida. And we actually just expanded to Texas.
Oh, okay. So I know South Florida, it's an expensive place to live. What about Texas? How's the housing cost in Texas?
You'd be surprised. There are some expensive houses in Texas, especially the Dallas area. But I mean, in general, Texas as a whole is very inexpensive. It's affordable. And the good thing is, at least what I see in Texas is what Miami was pre-COVID, where having a job, you'll be able to afford buying a home. Now you need a couple jobs.
Or the right job.
Or the right job, right? Stable income, right? It's a little challenging right now, but with sacrifice, it can still be accomplished.
Now, so let's talk about that. I know that there are probably folks listening that would love, that's the thing you always hear, the American dream.
There's people right at this table who would love to hear this.
So so let's talk about, because American dream, get a house and that kind of thing. If you're a first-time purchaser, is it easier? I mean, are there incentives for folks who are trying to purchase a home for the first time?
Yes, they are. There are many incentives, right? Not just only on the rates, but there's closing cost assistance, there's down payment assistance. Just in Florida, there's one called the Florida Bond, which gives you about $10,000 towards down payment and closing costs. And the good thing about these programs is that you do get a benefit of closing costs too. So some of the state fees, some of the county fees get removed when you use these programs. Now, I tell everybody, nothing is free. Right? This is a bond program, which means you do pay it back whenever you sell or refinance a home, but at least it's an assistance that you get up front, a zero interest loan that you only pay back whenever you sell, which the payback comes really from the equity of the property.
Right.
So in reality, you're not coming out of pocket and paying for it. And then, recently, you're gonna become a homeowner. There's a program coming out that's called the Hometown Heroes, which they're giving 5% of down payment and closing costs, up to $35,000.
So how much, if and this is probably, everybody lives in different places, but since we do live in South Florida and I'm interested, how much for a 3-2 in a normal neighborhood? Yeah, not, how much cash money does a person or a couple, a roundabout, I know you don't know exactly, but how much cash money does somebody need if they say, man, I'd like to own a, 3-2 or 2-bedroom, somewhere in that range. Yeah. How much cash do they need?
So the average single family home, especially in the Broward area, you're looking at about $550,000, right? So at that point, you get an FHA loan, which only requires 3.5% down payment, then plus closing costs. So let's say you don't get any down payment assistance and you're just coming in raw with down payment and closing costs out of your own pockets. Comfortably, you would need right around $42,000, $42,000 to $45,000. But again, having the right realtor, having the right lender is extremely important. The right realtor will negotiate for you to get some seller credits or get some discounts. The right lender will point you in the right direction to get down payment assistance, closing cost assistance, right? They will not lock the loan right away in for you because they play with the market, right? Because the market one day could be down, the next day could be up. If you don't have the right lender to point you in the right direction or educate you enough, you never know.
So now how have interest rates impacted your business? Because I know, for a lot of people, their housing, the house they could afford, all of a sudden they couldn't afford because of interest rates and the kind of note and stuff that they had.
Yeah. So we have been, for the past 3 years, I have been telling everybody, don't wait. Right? If you could afford, buy. The cost of waiting is insane down here in South Florida. Cost of waiting can cost you easily $45,000, $50,000, $100,000 in equity loss. So the way we've kind of been able to maneuver around it is updating pre-approvals every so often and letting the customer know exactly where they are approved now. And again, just overall educating the customer.
So when you say pre-approved, what does it take to approve? I mean, when you think about approving, because I think, again, that's some of the fear people have is like, I don't want to get turned down. I got turned down at Radio Shack, or whatever. It's like, what kind of credit, what kind of background do you have to get a housing loan?
So one thing that at Lumos we tell everybody is we're going to provide a roadmap for you. You can have a 400 credit score, you can have a 500 credit score, right? It doesn't take, you don't lose anything by getting some free information and getting educated on the matter, right? If you don't take a step forward, you're never going to know. If you're afraid of me telling you, hey, you're not approved now, but here's your roadmap to get you approved, that, really that's shame on you. But we take a lot of pride in there's no ideal credit score. We have systems in place that help you with credit. We have a thing called a rescore, which let's say you have a 550 credit score and you need a 620 in order to get the desired rate that you want. We'll tell you exactly what to do, what to pay in order to get to that 620 credit score that you need. But I mean, the pre-approval process is, as long as we verify credit, income, and assets, we'll be able to come up with a game plan and tell you, hey, you're approved for this much. Now, how much do you want to pay monthly? That's a big difference that people don't pay attention to is, I could approve you, let's say, for $1 million, but do you want to pay $8,000 a month?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So we focus a lot on what you want to pay, and we tailor the pre-approval towards you and your goals.
That makes sense.
That's dude, you look, So you still got that first home that you could get all those.
I don't have a first home.
No,
that's the issue.
That's what I'm saying, though. You
Right. I can get those benefits of first time buyer. Yeah. I've got one of the guys I work with just bought his first home. Nice. I think it's a 2-2. And he was talking about all the different benefits that they have, at least here in Florida, especially for first time. And I will say, he said that his biggest regret was he thought he needed so much more to buy a home. And he just wishes he would have investigated it sooner. Yeah. Because as he started the process, as you said, you want the right people involved. He was able to find those people, and he realized I could have gotten a home much sooner if I had just. But I always thought I didn't have enough.
Yeah.
And the moment he stepped into that, he's just like, the thing he told me is like, don't wait. Don't feel like, I don't know if I have enough. Start investigating. Worst thing, as you said, worst thing that can happen. Here's what you need to have enough to purchase a home. And if that's worst case scenario, I mean, that's not bad. You know what I mean? If that's a worst case scenario. So
the person out there that's listening and thinking they need to start to investigate, do they, and let's say they're not in Florida, they're not in Texas, they're not where you're located. So what kind, do they go to a realtor? Do they go to the mortgage? Where do they go to get the kind of advice you just talked about? As far as not just, here's what we can do and see you, but hey, now maybe you don't qualify, but here's how you can get to where you want to go. What do they need to look for?
So, I mean, for the most part, they'll go through a realtor first, and that realtor will refer them to the lender that realtor works with. I tell everybody, even when they come to me directly, hey, shop around, right? Explore your options. That is a right that you have. You have no obligation to me. I'm here to provide you information. I'm here to educate you and build trust and build a relationship. But I challenge you, right? Go out there and explore other options, because if somebody has a program that I don't have, I do not want you to miss out on it. So if a realtor refers you to a lender, talk to the lender, hear him out or her, right? See if you trust that lender enough and explore at least one or two more options, right? Just go to Google and search up mortgage brokers near me. Mm-hmm. If they just want to sell you and not build rapport with you, not build a relationship with you, move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day is, if somebody wants to do right by you, it's an opinion, right? They want to first build a relationship. They don't want to go into sales, right? They want to understand you. They want to understand your family. They understand your goals, what your motive is to buying a home. If you want to invest eventually in 2 years, right? What do you want to do?
That's good. So in this kind of situation you're in, it's interesting you bring up a question I think can really apply to really so many people watching, where how do you build trust with someone in a short window of time, right? Because it's not like you're with them. Now, I'm sure you've got people you've been working with for a long time, but initially, I mean, they're trusting you with what most of us hold most dear, which is our money. And so what are some ways that you found to build that trust as quickly as possible?
I ask questions. I ask, and I don't ask just questions about your finances. I ask questions about your family. I ask questions about your goals. I tailor it to you and what you want to do, right? What is your motive to buying the home? After I build enough relationship with you that I feel we have a good connection, a good conversation, then I'll go into the finance part. I ask about credit. I'll ask about income, how long you've been employed. I don't go directly into the sales aspect of the business. I have a genuine conversation with you. I've turned down business because we don't connect. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to go having back and forth in the middle of a transaction because there's no trust.
Right.
So if we don't have a good connection with each other and we're not able to build trust with each other, I'd rather hand you somebody off that will do right by you, you'll connect with, that you trust, and you'll be comfortable with.
Right.
But in the first 5 minutes are crucial.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Those first 5 minutes are honestly crucial. It really depends who you're talking to, right?
Yeah.
I think you get a good feel of the person the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
If they're a person that are challengers, like the book we read. All right. So if they're empathetic, if they're a little more laid back, if they rely on somebody else to be a decision maker.
Yeah.
So at that point, right, if it's somebody that relies on somebody else, like, hey, let's do a 3-way call.
Yeah.
Let's not make a decision now. Let's not get any documents. Let's bring in your spouse. Let's bring in your parents, your guardian. Let's bring in somebody here in the conversation where I could have a greater conversation with them.
Yeah. That's good.
There's a lot of people in sales of different types. How do you deal with what you're selling and the reality of whether the person that's buying it can actually afford it? In other words, like, do you feel any responsibility if they're over? I mean, you never totally know, and it's their decision. But at the same time, you've been in this long enough that you could probably look at what amount of money I'm bringing in and tell whether or not I'm really going to be able to afford the payment. How do you wrestle with that at all? How do you deal with that?
I do. I feel that I have to do right by people, right? I feel that I have an obligation to guide you in the right way, to provide you options. So if I do see that you're going into a home and just based on pure numbers, right? And the mortgage world, we look at the gross income. We don't look at the net. Obviously, the net is what you really bring home. The net is what you actually could afford to pay the monthly payment. And what we see is credit cards and debt. We don't see if you have kids, if you have any childcare. We don't see the amount of money you spend on food. We don't see your phone bill, right? There's certain things that we don't see, which that's where we have a genuine conversation with the customer. And that's why I focus so much on the monthly payment. I don't focus on the pre-approval amount or the purchase price. And I'll be the first to tell you, hey, I'll kind of check the customer. If I see them go above what they told me, hey, based on the conversation we had 2-3 weeks ago, a month ago, you said you want to be in this payment. Did something change? Right? Because sometimes we might fall in love with a property.
Yeah.
That is, like, say, $500 more a month, and your spouse fell in love with it, you fell in love with it, you're like, man, I see myself, raising my family here. You might make the sacrifice for the extra $500. So if you tell me you're okay with that, I have an obligation to do right by you and proceed.
Right.
But if somebody comes and tells me, Yoster, I told you I want this payment, but now I'm looking here and it's going to be tight, I think I can make ends meet, I'll look at your reserves. If I see you don't have enough reserves, I'll be like, listen, you might want to take a step back. Think about your family. Think about if anymore you lose your job, how many months do you have to pay for this property to find a new job?
Yeah.
Right. Like, how are you gonna protect your family?
Right.
And
yeah, that's good.
Because do you find what percentage would you say of folks tend to stretch as opposed to tend to purchase what they can actually afford?
90%. 90% tend to stretch a little more. And the good thing is, though, most of them ask, right? Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
And like that, I tell everybody, there's something that my partner taught me, actually. She says, I'm the GPS, you're the pilot. I'm going to give you different options. And ultimately, the decision is yours to make. I'm going to provide you options. I'm going to educate you, give you all the tools available for you to make the right choice.
And I think there's something in all of us that we tend to, there's a difference in house this price and a house that price. And the more expensive one, rare is the person that can say, I'll take less.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? That's just,
Exactly. Especially when you don't know what that extra feels like. You know what I mean? It's easy to write off in our head, like, oh, I just won't go out, a couple times or whatever. And then you start to feel it and you're like, oh, this is a big change than what I thought it was going to feel
if
like.
you're young and you think, oh, in 5 years, I'll be making.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Someone told me, man, I'm going to get a raise soon. I can feel it. Yeah,
Start talking
exactly.
about future income.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I go out two times less a month, I have enough money for it.
Now, were you in the business in 2008, 2009 when everything just went crazy?
I was in high school.
Oh.
You should have asked.
Well, I wasn't in high school.
But I did.
I know.
It was bad.
But I did educate myself on everything that happened in that time, right? And just to like sum it up, all right, The Big Short is a great movie, by the way, on Netflix. Watch that movie. That movie sums up everything that happened, and you could do research on the side just to fact check the movie. It's very accurate, right? So they were basically, let's say you came to buy a house and you were working at McDonald's. No shame against anybody that works at McDonald's. It's just an example. And you make $15 an hour, and you want a house that costs $800,000. There's no way you can afford the house. But you come to me and tell me, hey, I have enough money for a down payment for that house and closing costs, and I want that house. Okay. They'll write down that you made XYZ a month, put it on paper, submit to the underwriters. They didn't review it. They didn't check anything. And they gave it an A+ paper. So then when it started getting sold in the secondary market, everybody was like, wait, hold on. This is not,
Yeah.
these people can afford these homes. How does this person has 4 or 5 homes, 4 or 5 mortgages? How can they afford it
Yeah.
when they have one job making $20 an hour?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the whole crash happened. So a big topic right now is that going to happen again? Listen, people have been calling a recession since like 2015.
Right.
They've been calling for a recession for now 10 years. The feds, they've done a great job of actually looking at credit, income, and assets, right? Which that's the main factor of proving somebody for a home. People talk about foreclosures. The amount of people that own homes now compared to 2008 is much higher. So when people see your percentages, they're not taking into account that there's a lot more homeowners now than there were back then. So obviously percentages are always going to go up, right? You base on recessions, you base on a bubble popping, based on the amount that property is lower. For example, 2008 was like 34% was the average in the US. And I tell everybody, South Florida is a whole different animal, right? The Tri-County, it's its own different country. When it comes down to mortgages, you cannot compare anything to the Tri-County.
We had, here at the church, we lost, in just that short period of time, $10 million in our equity in the property. Now we've gotten it back. It's in the last, what do you call it, where they look at everything and
Reassess the value?
yeah. And we got it. I think 25 million. So, I mean, that's always great to have. It's not cash flow, so you can't spend it, But I knew pastors who, especially in Las Vegas, they got hit really hard, and so they were upside down. They lost so much value in their property, they were upside down. So then the bank wants to call the note, but there's no way in the world they can pay the note. And I know some churches that had to declare bankruptcy because of nothing they did. Just all of a sudden, the value of the property dropped below the amount of the note, and banks get scared just like everybody else. And so rather than work with them or whatever, they lost it. And I think that's always those kind of situations are sad because it's like, this is what your property's worth. And everybody likes to go up, but nobody's really ready to, especially if if you're close to that number, and then all of a sudden it drops down, and now they're like, hey, we want all of it.
You want all the way back?
It's like, whoa, we were paying whatever $1 million a month or whatever. Now you want $50 million. It's like,
That's a big change.
yeah, that's not necessarily easy to do, but at the end, many of them kind of it all kind of worked out. But I'm sure it wasn't pleasant to go. I know that here are several, because, folks here, and I'm sure around the country at the time, were doing a lot of flipping. Like you said, people had 3 or 4 houses and they were just buying. And then I've only bought 1 house here. All right. So I'm probably violating every rule you have because I rent. So, but, people, when you go look at a house in 2008, and if you didn't immediately make an offer, you wouldn't get it. I mean, people stood in line to get a house. Kind of, COVID was a little bit like that because, I know like renting, there was no houses on the market to rent.
They were bidding for rents.
Yeah.
There was a bid war going on for rentals. I found that absurd.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That to me was out of this world.
Same for cars, though.
Same for cars.
Yeah.
It was a crazy time for sure. So we're about out of time here, but I was just thinking, building on the question that Carson asked, as far as how do you get people to trust you, then how do you, as you, like you said, open in Texas, as you expand the business, how do you train other folks in those relational skills? Because, a lot of times people, he's a relational guy and, this person's not. So how do you help people become more relational so that they can, help the business and help people get into homes?
I guess it's there's a saying, right? You hire slow, fire fast. It's all about having the right people on your team, right? That represent your business. At the end of the day, this is our baby, right? Whoever has the Lumos shirt, whoever has the Lumos logo on them, I want it to be represented like if it was me or my partner. But we definitely host trainings, right? We do trainings. We have open conversations, open discussions. I'm very big on, hey, record that phone call. Let me hear the phone call and I will tell you what I would do different, or I would just critique the things that I would change, right? But sometimes building relationships is something you can teach. I think it comes with the person, right? I mean, there's some people who have it in them and they've just been in sales the whole entire life. So all they know is sales. But you could tell from a conversation if they have in them to build an actual relationship.
Yeah.
And then once you show them how much further they could expand their business just by tweaking 30, 40 seconds of the conversation, if they have the right mind, if they have the right intention, they'll stay.
Have you been able to find, because I'm sure there's sales folks who, basically it's just about the sale. In other words, all the things that you've talked about, they're not really that much concerned on, other than listening long enough to get the information to make the sale, as opposed to those who are truly trying to help people get into a home, and move forward. Have you had that issue where you hired somebody and not that they were too driven, but they weren't concerned beyond the sale?
Yeah, definitely.
That's got to be kind of hard to deal with. I mean, you got somebody who's making money for the company, but hurting people along the way.
So that's what we have to wrestle with, right? That's where doing the right thing comes into play. That's where me and my partner both, check each other, and we make sure that we hold the values of Lumos true. So if we see somebody that, they could be making whatever amount of money, right? But whatever they're making, trust me, I tell you, is not enough to withhold a backlash of mortgages. So if they do a bad loan, we're responsible for it, not them, right? So they can make us XYZ amount of money, but one bad loan at $700,000, it's a big hit to the company. So at that point is where, we assess the risk. Is the risk tolerance there? Is it not there? Is it over our risk tolerance? If it is, then we have to let you go immediately. All right, we'll have conversations that will definitely try to keep you, right, by having the conversations, by having the right trainings. But once we've exhausted those avenues, it's
right. Somebody wants to get into that, to the realty, into mortgage. What do they need to do?
Work. Be disciplined. People think coming into a mortgage industry or coming into real estate, they're going to come here and make easy money. You're not. Listen, I think there's like 60,000 realtors that are licensed in Florida. Only half did one deal last year. And out of those, about, I want to say is another half did more than 2 deals. So you have to work.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's no other.
It's not a very high success rate.
No, it is not.
No, it really isn't. But again, if you're disciplined enough to work and if you do right by people and you educate yourself before just being thrown into the field and talking without knowing, you'll succeed. Do your homework first, get educated, do the process yourself, then go and teach others, build those relationships, maintain the relationship. That's probably the hardest part.
Yeah.
Maintaining the relationship. And you'll do well.
Yeah, because I always think about like your phone service or your cable or streaming or whatever, internet. You go to Best Buy and the other company's just walking around, waiting to, who do you get your service from? And then
Really? AT&T?
right. What how much do you pay? They're just waiting to just cut you off at the knees.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. We've got a storage unit, and as they all do, it goes up in price. And we were like, all right, we're going to leave this place. We go to another place, right? And they're like, how much are you paying? We tell them, oh, that's insane. I just got an email this month that are at this new place that it's gone up $30 per month. And I'm like, it doesn't sound so insane anymore. Yeah, it is the truth.
That happens in the mortgage industry all the time, right? So you could have a genuine conversation with a customer, show them real life numbers, and then, they go and they shop around, and then they get another person that says, hey, your closing cost is $10,000 cheaper. And they're like, hey, listen, they come to me, Yoster, this person's offering me this, and they promised this rate, and they doing this. I'm like, is it locked?
Yeah.
No. So it's not real.
Yeah.
I could tell you right now, I'm gonna get you a 2% rate. Look at this. This is amazing. This is beautiful, right? You're gonna save so much money. And then a week before closing, hey, by the way, market change.
Not 2%. Yeah, not 2%.
So, we deal with that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But and again, this is thanks to my partner, by the way. She has taught me so much. If you build the right relationship, if you build the trust with a person, when they shop around, they can smell sharks.
Yeah.
Right. They can smell the people who are just going for the sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's a lot of sharks in the country. There's a lot of sharks in South Florida.
Oh, man. That's the truth.
In every business.
Yes.
Yeah, I imagine in realty, especially right now with the way that market is. And it's interesting time. Well, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, teaching us some things. Again, this is an area in which I am ignorant. Yeah. And I haven't taught my kids, neither one of them own a house. So I haven't.
Soon. It's coming. It's coming.
That's it. And you get, first time buyer, all that.
Exactly. I may never buy another one after that, but yeah. That first one's coming.
You'd be surprised after the first one,
Yeah. Just work your way up.
Oh man. Or like me, we had a house at once. I had no houses, and then all of a sudden I had 3 houses. In Arkansas and then here. And the one here I bought, I think like a year before 2008. So, it was terrible. It was terrible because, it wasn't worth, I owed more than it was worth. And it finally came back. I made more money. When we first moved here, we moved into Rexmere Village. For those of you watching and listening, that's a mobile home park here. Which costs more. That mobile home park costs more than my whole house in Arkansas. But you bought the house, the mobile home, and then you had to rent the lot. That's the way they did it at Rexmere. I assume they still do.
Yeah.
So, and when we moved, I sold that trailer, our mobile home. Don't call it trailer. I made more money on the mobile home than any house I owned.
Which is crazy because you're supposed to lose money on those.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I made more money on selling the mobile home than, because, it's all about, who you sell it to.
Yeah.
I sold the house in Arkansas to my dad, so I didn't make any money on that. And then here, it's all about timing.
It's all about timing.
Right, when you buy and when you sell.
Supply and
so
demand.
far, I'm not the example to follow. Guys, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you have been encouraged. If there's anything that you heard that you thought might help somebody else, why not pass it on along? Share it with somebody. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave a comment. Hey, you got some questions? We'll have Yoster back, and we'll answer your questions, especially in the area of realty and mortgages, all that stuff that we all deal with. And there are tons of commercials. It can get really confusing in that area. But anyways, I am so glad you came in. Don't forget, we've got a podcast drops every Thursday at 8 o'clock. We got a live stream on Sundays. Just have a little bit of fun. And then if you want to hear our teachings, you can go to potentialchurch.com or that handle. And then right here, we have some of the teachings and some leadership talks as well. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
For having me.
Thanks for hanging out. And y'all have an incredible day. And we'll see you next week right here at the Troy Gramling Podcast. Wait, before you go, if you're enjoying our content, check out this interview or this one here. They're both really good. And don't forget, subscribe. It's really important. We'll see you next time.